Hi, I'm Jen. Job postings are rarely just job postings. On Roast the Post, we unpack the story behind the bullet points. And in this episode, there's more being said than the posting probably intended. So, without further ado, let's roast. I have a post for you. You ready? Let's do it.
You have no idea how ready I am. I've been ready all day.
Wow, you need to get a life. No, just kidding.
Okay. February in Canada. What do you expect?
February in Canada. So, job title, culture coach, reporting to, doesn't say. The company's size is categorized in the 500 to 1,000 employee count, but what I could find online was that it's about 584 employees. The industry is IT services and IT consulting. And what the company does, to summarize, they use AI for software solutions to bridge the gap between technology and business strategy to drive faster execution, lower risk, and scale growth. Their head office location is in New York, New York. The job location is remote Canada. Their geographical operating area is global, and the position is a full-time position. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I chose this job posting because it was a job posting that I'd never seen this kind of title, culture coach, before as like an employment opportunity versus maybe like a consulting opportunity. And so, or a contract, freelance, anything like that. So I just thought it was really interesting. Culture coach, to me, being in human resources, was interesting. I wanted to know a little bit more. And so that's why I chose this. And I'm really excited to dig into it a little bit more with you. So let's do it. I'm going to go through section by section, take some pauses. We can identify some flags about the company. This company is a leading consultancy on a mission to build transformational digital solutions for the world's most innovative organizations. We hire software developers passionate about the latest cutting edge technology and working with other senior programmers on a high performing global team. So that's about the company. I feel like you have a question. Do you have a question or are you good?
No, I'm just like I'm chewing it over because you mentioned the culture coach thing, and that when you said it out loud, that kind of piqued my interest too because that it sounds like it should be an HR function, but it does not sound like a job title that you would get in a normal structured HR environment. So my brain's kind of spinning with like what is this thing? Like
Yeah.
it's a software shop, it's like an IT services development, AI first something or other. Like is this culture coach like an agile coach, kind of like that model? Because agile is super popular in software development and coaching, like scrum masters or coaches basically. Is this kind of that for HR and people, and it has it kind of adapted and evolved from that? I'm super curious. So yeah, like the look on my face is like, what's going on here? I'm
Yeah.
confused.
Well, let's
Because there's
find
shit
out.
going on in my brain.
Very, very astute. And I think this is why I chose this, because I had the exact same questions. And I was like, I couldn't quite figure out where they were going with this role. And I love that you picked up on that too. I think listeners would as well. Let's read a little bit more. So let's learn about culture coaches. Culture coaches help people develop, grow, and navigate their work so they can perform at their best. We identify themes and patterns across the organization and ensure leaders have the insight they need to create a healthy, high-performing environment. What we're looking for, I'm just going to go straight into that. This is a short job posting, but I think we both have we'll have a lot to say about it. So who we're looking for, pardon me. Worked closely with technical teams, a former software developer or teacher would be an asset. Tech forward, needs to understand core engineering concepts, how systems fit together, and what's possible with modern tools. So AI, automation, workflows, and can help others adopt them. A natural coach, you enjoy helping people grow, giving feedback, translating complexity into clarity, and pursuing personal development on your own time. You think like a consultant, someone who notices gaps and puts forward solutions that hold both the people and business values simultaneously. We do everything on Zoom. Therefore, you must complete the video portion to be considered for a first interview. So I'm going to stop there. We did the about culture coaches and who we're looking for. And I'm curious to you so far, any green flags, what's working for you, any red flags, any beige-ish flags that you can identify here?
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff that sticks out. So they explained what a culture coach is, which is it's good. That suggests to me that they that they understand that this is kind of like a novel concept, and they're hiring for something that doesn't really exist in a kind of purposeful, structured way in the job market. So they recognize that, and they explain what it is like they mean by culture coach. I think that's a really good sign. It hints to me that there's some organizational openness to this being a little bit kind of blurry around the edges. And if that kind of extends into the rest of the organization, great sign. Like I personally believe that orgs that are kind of built with that whole cog in the machine mentality, and they're all interchangeable and replaceable, tend to be not great places to work in the 21st century. So that was maybe a half a green flag. What color is green but not quite green?
Teal, maybe.
One red flag did kind of pop up for me though in that brief introduction.
Right.
The expectation that you're going to do personal development on your own time. Now, or professional development, I should say, sorry, on your own time. People who are engaged with their work, they're naturally going to want to learn stuff on their own, especially if they're intellectually curious, and that's a good quality, I think. Like that's a great thing to look for in a person. But if it becomes this expectation where you kind of as an organization get into saying, okay, you must have a professional development plan. You must have like a certain amount of coursework, like maybe you're doing SEU, like credit type stuff, CEU type stuff. You must have a certain number of those every year, and we'll pay for it. But you got to do it on your own time, weekends, evenings, whatever, and it's mandated. That gets a little bit iffy for me. If you're going to mandate professional development that's structured, you should account time for it as well. Otherwise, you're kind of putting your people at risk of burnout, right? Like you're piling more onto them onto what is probably already going to be a bit of a busy job. Like if this is a global company with offices all over the place and they're operating remote, you're going to be working kind of weird hours sometimes. So that was a red flag. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it did stick out for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't have that much to say at this point. If I'm reading this job posting for the first time, at this point, I'm still quite confused. Like, I don't have the clarity that I was looking for with the job. So I think that's my biggest red flag is that, like, halfway through, and I still don't actually know what this is.
Mm.
My brain keeps telling me HR, but like you said, agile, they're looking for people maybe who, someone who is a dev or a teacher, who also understands core engineering concepts. Like, but then you're a natural coach. And so I don't know. Like for me, it feels a little bit odd. Same like the personal development. It says pursuing personal development on your own time. So it does say
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
which is interesting too. I think what they're trying to say is someone who's like so into what they do that yeah, they spend time learning more about it. Like I don't know, to me I read it as like I'm really into HR, so I will listen to HR podcasts and read books on HR and
Mm.
articles. But that's not personal development. So I don't know if that's like a typo. I mean, maybe it's personal development, but professional and personal are two very different things. So um
Maybe they want people that browse like the self-help aisle at chapters like on the weekends or whatever, and kind of work on themselves. If this truly is
but
like a
on their own
coaching
time.
type thing, but on their own time, if this truly is a coaching type thing, that would kind of line up for me. And if you think about, you mentioned the ambiguity that we kind of have with this. There's not a lot of detail so far, and granted, more of the job post to come, even though you said it's short. Maybe this ambiguity exists because they don't have a structured kind of formula. Like there's no real formula for success with this. Maybe they could take a whole bunch of different combinations of people, like traits and skills and experience and whatever, and plug them in a way that works. So maybe it's ambiguous because like the role is ambiguous. Like it starts as a piece of a bowl of pudding, and it just kind of shapes itself over time into something that's more useful. Maybe it's one of those.
Yeah, potentially. The other thing that stood out to me was that last bullet point. We do everything on Zoom. Therefore, you must complete the video portion to be considered for a first interview.
Mm,
To me, I think that that means it's one of those like AI, like you're speaking to no one. You're just recording a video of yourself, or right? Like,
mm,
have you ever done those? And curious about your thoughts. I've done one once where I had to submit a video as part of an application process, and like questions flashed on the screen and I had to answer them. And I was like by myself. It was so bizarre. I've only ever done one, and for me, it's almost like an immediate turnoff.
yeah.
I can understand why some companies do this. I was just looking at another interesting job posting that I saw, and one of the things said exactly that, like do our whatever video first to submit your application. Um, I find it really impersonal, and if that's your entry point into an organization's culture, it gives me a bit of the ick. So
Hmm.
curious as to like why not just do a good old fashioned phone screen? That way you don't see what the person looks like. You have less kind of like preconceived notions about them, and biases creeping in. You just pick up the horn and get to know the person, ask a few questions. To me, I prefer that as just like this weird recording yourself into the void type thing. And then they also have that video too, which is like, what you gonna do with that video? That's weird to me. That feels like
Hmm.
very vulnerable. So that to me is like a red flag. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's the AI first hiring processes and the tools that have become available now, the platforms that kind of do this stuff. It's very much designed for productivity, for operational efficiency, and you go into an organization and you sell these tools by basically saying like, "Hey, no more phone screens. Hey, you don't have to actually hire a recruiter anymore.
yeah.
You don't need to involve humans in the early part of the interviewing arc. Like it's very much a productivity and efficiency sort
Oh,
of thing, these tools. But as you said, it makes the cultural entry point really weird. I haven't done one of these yet, but I've read enough from people who haven't talked to people who have done these before. And one of the things that sticks out in that commentary that I've kind of had in conversations with people is that so many of the social cues are missing from like the interview process, because interviewing is conversational, right? So many of the social cues like body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, all of that, it's completely missing. So it almost is an environment that generates um, awkwardness and strangeness and weirdness. And then how you communicate into this black void is going to be awkward and weird and strange. So on the other side, when you have people who are reviewing this, like, what's their impression of you? Their
yeah.
impression is going to probably be something like, oh, this person is really awkward and not great at talking to people. So for a people kind of like manager or leadership or like whatever role where you have to be good with people and you have to have conversational skills, they're going to suck. So see you later. But it's the system and the process that got them there, not the person's actual state of being, of who they are and how they behave.
You make a really good point. It is when you're just speaking on camera and you're by yourself, it is so performative. Like, it's just
Mm,
performative. You kind of put on a little voice and a little show that's not really a true reflection. Like, you start to warm up when you're having a dialogue with someone. So yeah, I totally agree. It's also weird. It's worded in an odd way that I don't quite understand. Like, we do everything on Zoom. Got it. Therefore, you must complete the video portion. What video portion? To be considered for a first interview of the
Yeah.
interview? Like, it's just weird, to me, that just written oddly, and I would love if they use that opportunity to go, step by step into what is that interview process. It says first interview, how many are there? Who are they with? Yeah, is this is that video portion gonna have questions? Like, just a bit more information. They have the space for it.
Mm,
And it's also weird that they categorize that under the who we're looking for. Like,
mm.
that's an odd place to put that bullet point. And I've spoken before about just like conjugation of verbs, like who we're looking for, and then it says worked closely with. That doesn't ring
Yeah.
to me. So
And setting expectations goes a long way too. So if we think about this this opportunity that has been missed, like you've kind of highlighted it, I was kind of dancing around it a little bit, but there's an opportunity that's been missed here to really outline the hiring process.
yeah.
And if you set expectations up front and you say, hey, you know, we use like the screening tool, you won't be talking to a person like, hey, 21st century, cool. We know it's kind of weird. This is how we suggest you prepare for it. Here are some tips on like how to talk to the void and not seem like a bit of a unsuitable candidate. Like there's an opportunity to guide people through stuff like this and still gain those productivity and efficiency improvements that you want, which is why you would buy a system like this in the first place. So missed opportunity, missed opportunity. I would classify that, like I would flag that as a beige flag. It's a missed
Right.
opportunity. You know, all this stuff is so new. Maybe they legitimately just didn't think of it.
Absolutely.
Would I think of it in the same place? Maybe not. Like this is it's new. But would I think of it the second time after, you know, watching this show? Of course I would.
Of course you would. There's also some mandatory disclosures, like legislation driven about using AI technology in the recruitment
Mhm.
and interview process. And so we'll see if that's covered in this job posting, but spoiler alert, it's not. And so, so let's just go a little bit deeper into
Yep.
the job posting. So now we're on coaching responsibilities. So this is where we get a little bit more insight. I had said it's still a little bit unclear to me, what is this role.
Mm.
So we're going to learn a little bit more. Develop meaningful relationships with software developers through regular check-ins asynchronously on Slack and synchronously via Zoom. Coach developers on managing commitments, identifying and shifting unproductive moods, and building habits that support productivity. Deliver constructive feedback tactfully with an outcome of change. Lead company wide training sessions. Identify and escalate appropriate concerns to leadership. Lead and execute special projects independently and achieve outcomes. Actively create remote community. Uses AI to advance workflows, coaching, and puts forth new ways of solving problems that work. So I'm going to stop there. That's it for the responsibilities.
Mm.
Just a note to listeners and watchers, I'm just reading verbatim. When there are
Mhm.
those grammatical errors, I'm overthinking it. Probably others are like, let it go, Jen. But I just want people to know I can read. I'm just reading what it says. So disclaimer. Let's talk about these coaching responsibilities. What stood out to you? What are some things that you like? What are some things you hate? And what are some things
Yeah.
you are okay with?
And another note for the folks listening at home, we do put a copy of the job description like as written on Substack. So there'll be a link in the show notes to go check that out if you want to. Like, you know, you can follow along. And yeah, Jen is just reading it out as it's written. And when I host, same sort of thing. I read it out as it's written, and we take on the risk that we sound like fools. Yeah, there's a couple of things that stand out for me in that section. So having gotten kind of what they expect from their culture coach out in the open, this very much now strikes me as a scrum master type role. but
Mm.
they've chosen to call it culture coach. Because when you're working in an engineering environment that uses agile software development, having a scrum master, or whatever the comparable is an important part of that process. And really that person's goal is to be, or their purpose is to be a leader without title authority. So they're a peer leader, really. Their job is to help everyone get the most out of their talents and whatever. And this now is very much striking me as that. So green flag, they listed out pretty clearly the outcomes that they expect from the coach. They said, you're going to coach and mentor, you're going to help developers with like time management, with effective communication, whatever else. That's good. That's a green flag for me. It very, very succinctly puts down like, you're here to do this. How you get there, it's going to be up to you, but this is what we expect. Some people will find that a little bit wishy-washy, and not clearly defined, but that is the nature of this type of job. It is very much an art form, not a science, this type of job. So green flag for me for that. One thing that kind of made me laugh a little bit was the special projects thing. And would you actually mind reading that part out again, where they say you'll lead special projects? Because I forget how it was worded.
Lead and executes special projects independently and achieve outcomes.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's the part
This
that made
this
me
is
laugh
where
a
I
little
had to
bit.
have the
So
disclaimer
you're
about
going
knowing how to read. I know how to read.
so you're going to lead special projects, and the outcome of those special projects will be outcomes. Cool.
And you will achieve those outcomes,
Yes, because they are outcomes. Uh,
and you're leading and executing them.
yeah,
In a
as you do when there are outcomes to be had.
right?
I mean, no mention of what those outcomes are, and fair that you don't know them. Like part of a good coach's job in an environment like this is to identify opportunities for improvement, and that can be improvement from a financial standpoint, from an operations standpoint, from a cultural standpoint. Really, the goal is to build something better. So the outcome of the projects with the outcomes is going to be ambiguous. But you could have found a better way to word it.
You think? I mean, I feel like a lot of it. I'm totally taking over your. It's still your turn, but a lot of these are like half sentences. Like just complete the sentence. Like actively create remote community by like what by doing what, right? Like what does that look like, and how will you know? Like it's bizarre to me. So anyway, go on. What else?
Yeah, no, that's about all that I had to say about this particular section. But that was short. That section was
Yeah,
really short, and it does strike me as half baked.
yeah,
So the natural kind of thought that comes to mind is like, does their hiring platform also write the job descriptions for them? And did they not like put enough into the instruction for their AI to spit out like like a rational sounding job description? I don't know. Or was this just somebody who is like, we want a coach. We think it's a good idea because we read a book about it being a good idea, but we have no fucking idea how to do this. Let's write some words. Is it
yeah,
one of those? And in fairness, if that's what happened, okay, I will still give you bonus points for incorporating a concept as unusual and not mainstream,
yeah.
as this into your business. Like you're trying to innovate, so you get bonus points. But damn.
Damn. I so agree with you. What I like, the green flags for me is that it's exactly what you said. They're trying to do something different here. So kudos to them for doing that. I Part of me loves this idea. I wrote a post on Substack a while back about the concept of like dual leadership roles. So on teams having like somebody who's manager in terms of those achieving outcomes, if you will, but like just making sure that they're delivering, and then having someone who's like in a people development role, and they kind of collaborate and work together to support the team. So I feel like this is similar to that, but it also brings up a lot of questions for me. And one of them is when it says like deliver constructive feedback tactfully with an outcome of change. But like feedback on what? Do they have a manager? Like, do they have a people
Mm,
manager and this is a coach to support the team? Because for me, it's interesting that you would be delivering feedback like in a coaching capacity, you're guiding and you're mentoring. I would assume that the people manager is the one delivering the feedback. So are you not guiding the people manager on how to deliver that feedback if they need it? But this is one of very few bullet points in their responsibilities. So obviously then it's a big role. Um, Identify and escalate appropriate concerns to leadership. Who? So they don't have a manager? Like it's because that would be the first point, right? Is to escalate that. Or I would think the manager would be escalating that to the coach. Like it's weird dynamics. I'm very curious about what this structure looks like. Again, love the idea of having like an embedded coach onto a team, but I need to know a little bit more to understand who's accountable for what. Where
mhm.
where are you escalating things? Where does the risk live for people? So I just thought that that was really interesting. And then at the same time, actively create remote community. That's a weird fragment of a sentence. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean that they are helping to build a strong remote culture, keeping people engaged and connected? Like, just a little bit more information there. And then uses AI to advance workflows, coaching, and puts forth new ways of solving problems that work. That's interesting to me too. What AI tools, what are kind of the I mean, they're not going to put like an AI policy in the job posting, but I'm really curious as to what that like ethical and moral line is because you can hire someone to be a coach. And if they're just expected to spit out like frameworks and sessions using AI, I don't know. I don't know if that doesn't really make sense to me. So I guess for me, I'm sitting here looking at the job posting. They've told us everything about the job. The next parts are going to be a little bit about like benefits and stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
it's
Before we move on to that, I want to circle back to one comment you made about the structure of team and the structure of the team and authority. This is an example of a job posting where it would have been really useful for people who are potentially applying to this job
yeah,
to detail the immediate organizational structure, like the reporting structure because you're right. It sounds in that job in that particular part where they're talking about the responsibilities, like giving feedback and whatever,
yeah,
through the traditional management structure. That says, okay, so this person is doing performance reviews, but in an agile software development environment, it's actually that's not the case. So you have in those traditional or those agile software development environments, when you implement a system like Scrum, you've got product owners. So they're responsible for kind of project management, the development of different products or features or what have you, and they're kind of like the hierarchical managers. You will have a team lead who typically your feedback and your performance related stuff goes through the team lead or the business unit owner or something like that, which is also a separate person. The coach is completely divorced from that, and
mm,
that's intentional. It's by design. So the coach is meant to deliver day to day feedback, usually through a team review process. Where you like a sprint review or something, where you kind of get into the nitty gritty about how the past 2 weeks went, and the coach, the scrum master, kind of leads that process. But none of that is clear from this job posting. So are these folks kind of implementing a bit of a bastardization of scrum, like they're trying to make it their own and fit their own business? And if they are, cool. Or are they using kind of this agile process and they're just not explaining it well?
yeah.
Don't know. It's ambiguous.
It is ambiguous. So this is a good point. And like I was saying, if you take all of that, that's just about the role itself, before we get into like benefits or anything else. To me, that was not enough. And so I did some research.
Mhm.
I was like, is this HR? Is it like you were talking about? Are we talking Scrum Master? And the what I found is that each of these culture coaches previously held human resources roles, every single one of them.
Hmm,
And they all report into like a director of human resources.
hmm,
So this to me is a reimagination of a human resources business partner role. That's the only thing that makes sense to me based on looking at the LinkedIn profiles of all of the people in their company who hold this role. So
hmm,
while they ask for like a technical expertise or background, everyone I found has done HR, people ops, people and culture, whatever it is, in some shape or form, prior to having this role. So
hmm.
now that we know that, and like I looked up the structure, I mapped out an org chart about what I used AI to help me, but I mapped out based on those roles. I mapped out what an org chart would look like for this organization for this department, and essentially it's an HR department. Um,
Huh.
so based on that information, what did like does that change your mind a little bit about how this is written and what they're trying to do? Like, because to me, it's not, I get what they're trying to do, but it's not translating. They need to do a little bit more work on this to make it make sense. But curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, with knowing that, it's almost like they're trying to create a new type of boot,
Yeah.
uh, by cutting a heel and a running shoe in half and, like, gluing them together.
Wait, what's happening?
Your confusion is palpable, and that's the confusion I feel internally, knowing
Yeah.
what you just told me. No, it's
Take
so
it.
I again, like, I like, I still give them bonus points, like, I'll give them credit for trying to innovate, and add something unique and interesting to their organization that, like, it seems to me like their vision for this is to modernize HR a little bit,
Yeah.
make it about people and culture, embed it directly into teams, and, completely disintegrate silos. Like, that feels like the vision that they have for this, and if that's the case, awesome, good for them. Because HR as a practice in growing companies tends to get siloed, and, like, there are a ton of structural issues with it despite people's best efforts. So if they're trying to, like, address that, awesome. But it's weird. Um, I don't think necessarily that, and maybe this isn't policy, but if each of the people who hold this role now are former HR practitioners and kind of quietly that's what they're hiring because that's what they believe will fill the role, they're doing themselves a disservice, I think.
I agree. I agree. And I wonder then when the organization does have HR, like human resources issues, are these coaches addressing those issues, or is that what they
Mhm.
mean when they say identify and escalate appropriate concerns to leadership? Um, that's weird to me, and I feel like there's a risk of lines blurring just a little bit here.
Yeah.
Again, I like what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to be innovative and change it, and maybe just like do some reparation of poor trust issues with human resources and maybe specifically with like devs
Yeah, like a
and
rehab job.
you're right, yeah, so I get it, but I thought that was an interesting like plot twist that everyone
Yeah.
is human resources, they report into human resources. This is not, it just doesn't, it's not clear in the job posting whatsoever, and there are a lot of them, like it's a large team. And so
Hmm.
this is what was interesting to me too, is that then why is the job posting so like vague and bland? And if they have so many of these people, then why aren't they just writing a really like sick job posting? Like I love the idea of this. I think it needs to be written a lot better, and just a lot more like it needs to be a robust job posting. So it's weird. It's weird, right? Yeah. Okay.
It's weird, but is it weird because it's not mainstream, or is it weird because it's poorly conceived, or a bit
Yes.
of both? It's probably a bit of both.
I think that's the question. I think it's a little bit of both. Again, like I've said it so many times in this one episode. I love this idea. I'm all for
Uh,
completely changing like HR, the field, everything, and trying different things, but this ain't it. I don't think this is the way to do it. So let me talk a little bit about, I said it's a short posting, and here we are just blabbing on and on about it. Okay. Our benefits. We know that people do their best work when they're taken care of, so we make sure to offer great benefits. Fully remote role, PTO, flexible family leave, annual financial allowance for your development, strong company community, company name you. So basically it's the name of the company you as in university, meaning they have training programs.
mm.
Um, which is interesting because from it sounds like these career coaches are the ones doing the training program. So does that also apply to them too? So those are the benefits. And I'm just going to quickly go into getting hired, and then there's more after that, but we can pause. Getting
Wait,
hired.
that's it for benefits? That's all they listed?
Yeah.
There's nothing really concrete in there.
Fully
So
remote role,
carry
PTO.
on. Sorry.
That's well, I'm just repeating it. So fully remote role, we know
Mhm.
that. PTO, I should hope so because it's illegal otherwise. Flexible family leave, annual financial allowance for your development. I'm saying that because it's in uppercase for your development. Strong company community, and then company name, university training programs. My eye is twitching, Paul. It really is. I hope it's not showing up. Oh, gosh. So those are the benefits. Maybe I will stop there because we both have feelings about it. So what do you?
Yeah, that was really sparse.
Yeah,
Like when you said PTO, like the first thing I did was I wrote down PTO question mark, because there's nothing, there's nothing there. Like, is it one of those unlimited PTO policies? Is it, PTO negotiated commensurate on experience? Is it a fixed model where you start with 2 or 3 weeks and you advance to like 5 after so many years of service? Like, doesn't tell you anything about that.
yeah,
Um, that strikes me as strange. Flexible leave for family, nice, really nice, but ambiguous.
yeah,
What does that mean? Does that mean that you can do flex time and, duck out for your kid's soccer game, or, to take somebody to the doctor and make up the time later? Or does it mean you can actually like take the time off to deal with family stuff? And is it only family stuff? What about stuff with friends? What about personal stuff? What about I need a mental health day? Like what is that policy? It's not clear at all in the way that they wrote it. Um, the the university thing, cool. Uh, that's also a little bit vague and ambiguous. Um, though I am quite curious now about like from a structural standpoint, how is that administered? Like if your coaches are coaching teams and also, building and maintaining content and courses and whatever for this, like what does that look like in the job? Like, are you kind of running that too? Are there resources in place to kind of help with that? Like, it just it sounds a little fly by night. It sounds weird.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
doesn't talk about healthcare. Doesn't talk about healthcare benefits, vision, dental, any of that stuff. Like, American company, um, and this is a remote role for Canada. So, like, maybe they're assuming that universal healthcare just kind of does it all. Uh, does more than what's available in the U.S., but no, it doesn't do it all. Most provinces like don't cover vision or dental, or there's a bunch of other stuff that people need that's not covered. So like, there's nothing about health benefits, which is a big, big red flag for me.
yeah.
Big red flag.
I agree. I feel like the whole posting, including the benefits, is like, oh, almost. Just tell me a little bit more. There's a lot missing here. I agree. Flexible family leave. Well, what if you don't have a family? What does What does that mean?
Does the foster cat that we have at home count as family? Like, can I take 3 hours off to take her to the vet? Like,
I have seen, one of the coolest job postings I saw benefits was that, if you get a new pet, you also have, paid time off, like maternity, like parental leave
mm,
thing. You get a
okay.
period of paid time off to adjust and get them, like, house trained and everything. I thought that was super cool. Like, I like,
Mhm.
yeah, family looks and feels different for everyone, and uh, someone who does have a child, I know it takes a lot of time, but I don't think I'm special or deserve special treatment because of that, right? Like, I don't think that people should have to make up for me when I have to run and go deal with a sick kid or anything like that.
Yeah, and the more that you create policies that are narrowly targeted to benefit, certain groups of people, even if it's with the best of intentions
Yeah,
and, to try and be good and supportive, the more that you do it, the more that you risk creating, otherings
yeah,
with people who don't fall into that group. And, like, the parents, non-parents thing, it's a good example. Like, I don't have kids.
yeah,
So that's if it was like strictly for a family and it was meant to be used for kids, I wouldn't be making use of that. And would I feel a little bit bothered by it? No, because like from a societal standpoint, like supporting people who have kids and families is a good thing. Like there's that whole it takes a village, but it does create a separate class of employee
yeah,
that isn't cool.
yeah. I agree. I think like, long story short, we've said this before, list all of your benefits and perks. Like, this can't be it. Do you use like amazing technology? Do you like what else is there? List everything. Start by listing every single thing that makes your company really cool to work for and the benefits, and then you can start like trimming back a little bit. But this is way too short. Getting hired, our team is made up of people who are not only from different countries, but also from diverse backgrounds and disciplines. Our focus on employing respectful, introspective, and collaborative talent is what powers our company and our success. That's under getting hired. That's weird, right? Like, what do you mean?
It didn't actually explain how to get hired.
No, it says getting hired, and then it just talks about like hiring diverse people. So that's weird too.
Yeah, you're not being gaslit by the post. I also think that that is incredibly strange.
I wanna like it so badly. I really wanna like it. But then, like,
Yeah,
this is not about getting hired. This is, like, maybe a DEI statement, inclusion statement, and then we go into I'm just gonna we both agree that's weird. Location,
yeah.
this is a fully remote position. However, candidates must be based in regions that align with the Pacific, Central, or Eastern US time zones to ensure effective collaboration with client and team schedules. Fair enough. The application deadline, it just says that it's an evergreen position with no predetermined start
Yeah.
date. Applications will be accepted though until end of this month. As we continue to build our talent pipeline, the position may be reposted to allow us to connect with additional qualified professionals. And I will say I have seen this role posted several times. Yeah, thoughts on maybe evergreen location?
Well, that's the evergreen thing. At least they're being honest about it. I will give them that. That to me says that this is a fishing expedition,
Mm,
and they may or may not have a vacancy on this team right now that they're hiring for. That
right.
very much feels to me like they're trying to build a database of people who are interested in perhaps a skills and experience fit, and they'll tap that in the future. I, uh, I will give them credit for being honest about it, but I don't like it because you're basically saying to the person reading the job post, there may or may not be a job here, but still go through the
Yeah.
trouble of applying. I don't dig that.
I don't either. I laughed because you said tap that, and I thought it was funny. I don't like it either. Then I think there needs to be disclosure at the top, just saying, because I've seen those positions, like those things where they're like called to interest or whatever. Like if it's like an open job posting, not specific to a role, more like if you're interested in our company. I agree. I think that that's a little bit, that's odd, but then again, it might work in someone's favor. Somebody who isn't in a rush to
Mhm.
start or needs to give a long notice period. We were just talking about that before we started recording, about having to give long notice periods and things like that. So yeah, it's interesting. The format, this is going to be weird. We're going to go into salary guesses right now, but then there's more in the job posting. I'm just following the way that it's laid out. So I'd love to know what you think a salary range for this job posting would be. Reminder, fully remote in Canada. Um, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and my comments about there not being health benefits and whatnot before, which I didn't really like that. But if the price point is high enough, it doesn't matter. You can buy your own insurance plan. Like there's tons of plans that you can tap into from there. It's friggin' tap into again. Like you got in my head. There's tons of health and benefits plans that you can participate in outside of being a part of an employer sponsored program. There's a bunch of them. They're all over the place. So like if you're being paid well enough and you want that kind of traditional coverage and you want to spread the risk over like an insured pool of people who are kind of in the same boat, cool. Cost you $1,000 a month, but if your salary's high enough, doesn't matter. What do I think this job is worth? Ah, it's a US based company, so they're probably baselining the salary in USD. I would assume that them being headquartered in New York City, they've got kind of a sense of cost of living in different areas. Um, as usual, I think that there's what they offer is one thing, and what I think it's worth is another thing.
Yeah,
I think that they're probably offering about the equivalent of 85,000 Canadian a year. And I feel like it should be a little north of 100,000 Canadian a year.
right. Um, you nailed it. The range is 75
Ooh.
to 100 Canadian.
Okay.
I think that's a fair range. I
Mhm.
didn't guess because I saw it, but when I was reading through the first time, I would guess like 85-ish. There's just not a lot of information. That's why. And then as a career coach,
Yeah.
it's hard to benchmark that. In my mind, I can't think like what's comparable to that. So yeah, you were right, 75 to 100 annually, with final compensation determined by your qualifications, expertise, experience, and the role's scope, which is also
Mm.
interesting.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. Are
because
they are they building like your scope of responsibilities and practice around? I guess this would kind of make sense if they're treating this like an evergreen, always hiring thing. Like maybe there's some element of tailoring the position and offer to you.
yeah.
If that's the case, cool. Should have said that though.
Well, and I like that they put a salary range. Like I can't complain.
Yeah.
It's just it brings me joy. Um, but I have a twist for you. I feel like this one has had a lot of twists. You would think that that would be it, but there's also benefits. Wait a minute, Jen. You just said the benefits. I know, but for some reason, they have benefits twice. And in the second
Oh,
part, they have more details.
okay.
I don't know. So we went through salary. So now let's go through benefits. The first section was our benefits, and it listed a whole bunch of like bland, vague type benefits. Benefits redux, I guess, is in addition to competitive pay. We offer a variety of benefits to support your professional and personal growth, including flexible working hours in a remote environment, health insurance, medical and
Mm,
dental for T4 employees. We'll get to that. A professional development fund to enhance your skills and knowledge, 15 days of paid time off annually, access
mm.
to soft skill development courses to further your career. What? Why?
Okay, so So the second time around, they actually properly listed out the benefits that are a part of the total compensation package. Good for them.
Weird way to go about it, but
Yeah,
sure.
I think that they should have like hired somebody to like read this thing before posting
Maybe we should offer our services.
it.
Proofread.
I kind of I kind of a part of me really wants to like apply for this job and go through the motions just to see what it's like,
Yeah.
and then like report back and we'll do a follow-up episode or something. Part of me
Oh,
really wants to do
you
that.
know what? If there are any listeners who are like, "I know this job, I applied and went through," please, if any of these jobs ring a bell to you, let us know. Because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
curious too. Because if there's not proofreading, please proofread your job postings, but if you're not, like, how do you not catch that you've done this twice? Like, it's so weird to me. But yeah, any thoughts on now that we have the information, what those benefits.
Yeah, so knowing that there's actual like health insurance, you know, vision, dental, all that stuff. They said for T4 employees, which means any employee in Canada. That was a little strange to call
Yeah.
that out. Like, do they hire contractors, independent contractors, as well as directly employed people? I don't know, because like you get a T4 when you're employees. So like
Yeah.
I don't know, weird. But it's good to know that they actually have those benefits in place. 3 weeks vacation, sure, it's fine for a starting point. Like after 5 years, you know, you'd want more, but 3 weeks is perfectly sufficient for a starting point. Now, what they didn't do was in the first benefits section, they talked about like the family leave thing. They didn't mention that in the second one, though.
Yeah.
I don't think. Like they said flexible time something or other, but it wasn't quite the same. So which one's true?
Yeah. Which one is it? More details, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Benefits still strike me as a little light though. Like there's not a ton there.
yeah, it's not. And the 15 days of paid time off annually, cool, but then maybe say to start so that people know that there's an
Yeah.
opportunity for that to grow. So like again, they're almost there with a lot of it. Professional development fund, access to soft skill development courses, great. But still, it's just as vague as the previous section, though, because it's not really telling
Yeah.
us a whole lot more. So it's just reiterating the same thing with a few more words. And then finally, position details. This is a full time position requiring a minimum of 40 hours per week, Monday through Friday. At this
Mhm.
company, we are committed to creating an environment that prioritizes growth, work life balance, and the diverse needs of our team members. And scene. That's
So
it.
work life balance with a minimum of 40 hours per week. Uh that's yeah, not to be pedantic about it, but
You're
this
right.
kind of does make me think, like especially the use of the word minimum,
Yeah.
right?
Good point.
When you say this position requires a minimum of 40 hours per week, that suggests that it's quite frequently going to be longer than 40 hours a week, more effort than 40 hours a week, which nothing wrong with that. Like I'm no stranger to stupidly long work weeks. Like at points in my career, I've put in 80 and 90-hour weeks. Sucks, takes a toll on you,
Yeah.
but it's a thing, and some people are okay with it. Uh, but is this going to be one of those jobs where on one hand you've got, hey, work life balance is great, and on the other hand you've got, hey, you know, Jarvis over in section Q needs this cover sheet for the TPS report by 5 p.m. today, or whatever. Like, are
Yeah.
you going to have to like habitually work stupid hours to do your job? Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being pedantic, but
Or
the use of the word minimum really sticks out for me.
or they just didn't mean to put that, right? They didn't quite
Yeah, maybe.
read it. It feels like the whole thing just needed another set of eyes, another review. Maybe they just didn't mean to put that because yeah, like you said, I didn't even think that until you said it, but that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So that's the job overall. Um, do you feel ready to give it a score?
Do I? So there are actually two scores. The score that I would have given it before the benefits redux, and that score was like a 2.
Yikes. I think that's your lowest score yet.
Yeah, we're trending down because, last week we had my lowest score ever.
A 3. I think that was a 3, yep.
Like it was 3 or 3.5 or something, yeah. No, so they kind of redeemed themselves a little bit in my eyes with the benefits redux part where they clearly stated what the benefits
Mhm.
actually were, even if they are a little light. I think overall I'd probably score this like a 4, 4.5. Even with the additional information, it was a bit vague. There wasn't a lot here to really help the job seeker contextualize what this role is. Like, yeah, you know, it's a coach. You're a coach. You're in a software development IT services organization. You know, it's a professional services environment. So your job is to be a coach and to help all the people who are producing billable hours like be better. That part's pretty clear, but there's a lot of context missing about the organization and about the clients and about like the work that's being done. There's a ton of stuff missing that and you don't always have to put that into a job description, but
Yeah,
specifically when we're talking about a role like this that is very ambiguous just by the nature of what it is and like the innovative thing the company is trying to do, more contextual information would have been a whole lot better. It would have been really helpful. So yeah, that was missing. They also didn't disclose use of AI in the hiring process, though we can pretty much be certain that they're using AI in the hiring
yeah,
process, given the kind of loosely described uh, video thing that you have to do. Like, yeah, it's going to be AI screener, of course it is, but they didn't disclose it, and they were required to by law in I think at least 3 jurisdictions in Canada now, and several in the U.S.
yeah,
So that was a miss for me.
yeah,
Um, and then just yeah, the general ambiguity and lack of clarity
yeah.
really struck out. Like it really struck out for me on this. Like this job posting struck out big time because of that. Though I do love what it seems like they're trying to do, and I wish them success. But you needed to be a whole lot more clear about it to get a higher score out of me.
I agree, and I think that, for me, I'd say it's probably gonna be my lowest, like a 2 or something like that, if I have to give them. I mean, they did something, so yay. There's I think maybe even participation ribbon would be my ranking for this one. And I think it's because, and maybe it's by design. Maybe they're being really vague by design because they want to cast a wide net, see what kind of different
Mhm.
skill sets they're attracting. But like when I go back to, I just pulled up my notes from when I was researching this role. When I go back to the people who hold this role already, one of them lists their responsibilities in a lot more detail than what the job posting does. And I think that
Mm.
they could have just done that. Like some of it is they mention HR. But they manage PTO requests.
Hmm.
That's weird, right? Promotions,
Yeah.
career progression discussions, they collaborate for like events, initiatives, engagement, retention. So it's weird. Like there's a lot more detail that you can find if you do a little bit of digging. But like, why not just provide that information? I can only assume that it's by design that they want to be vague because if it's not, then it's like a really, really crappy job posting. And I'm like, my mind is blown as to why anyone approved that to go live for a posting. Like it's
Yeah.
really bad. And again, and there's nothing about the company culture. Like if you're asking someone to be like a champion of culture or to like
Yeah.
create a remote community, give us a little bit more about what if it's a culture that I fundamentally disagree with or whatever. Like what are the values? What's the mission? Like what are the folks like who work there? It's just
Yeah.
like really uh thumbs down job posting for
I
me.
was I was gonna say when you were kind of talking about that, I was gonna say like yeah, the MDV was missing,
Yeah,
right? Like the organizational purpose, the values, the things that make people want to
yeah,
contribute to the success of an organization beyond like
yeah,
putting food on the table. Because let's be real about it.
This
Like,
is it.
there's a huge difference between working a job to put food on the table and working a job because you believe in what the organization is trying to do and you want to advance their purpose. Really, big difference
I
between
agree.
those two things. And the talent who comes in for those two things into an organization are also very different, right? Like your motivation for someone who's just there to collect a paycheck versus your motivation for somebody who like believes, very different things. So missed opportunity.
Absolutely.
And another missed opportunity, I think, anyway, was like I'm starting to really agree with you when you said that that this was a like kind of we're going fishing. It's an evergreen. We want to see what we get, and then we'll get more clear from there. I really, I'm kind of starting to agree with you on that. But that also represents a missed opportunity unto itself. Why not just say that?
Yes.
And why not lean on that to do some employer branding and be like, hey, this, you could just like flat out say something to the effect of, hey, we're trying something. It's worked for us before. It's ambiguous and weird and very bespoke. So we don't know what we're looking for, but when we find what you have, we will know how to
Uh,
plug it in. So you're successful,
I would love that.
right? Like, why not tell that story? Like
Yeah.
that's a huge missed opportunity. Like if
Yeah.
I kind of got that story out of that job posting, I'd be amped. I'd be like, yeah,
Same. Like co-design this with us. Like
yeah.
tell us the ideas that you have for this. I agree. Nothing about it was like exciting to me, and I think people forget employers to that they could be making it exciting. Like you want the job posting to be like, oh damn, I need to apply for this job. Like this is so
Mhm.
cool. Like, I want to get this job. There's none of that here. Yeah, I was gonna say something else along those lines, but I completely lost my train of thought because you got me excited about something else. So I saw a squirrel, I guess. Um, but yeah, I think that lots of lost opportunities. I think it's super vague. I'm not sure they know what they're looking for. I remember what I was going to say. All of this to say that there will be no shortage of people applying for this job. Like people are going to be applying because it's vague enough that you're like, well, I could do this, right? Like I was a teacher, I was a software developer, I was in HR, I'm a coach. Like it's so vague and ambiguous that they will get a lot of applicants. And I feel like if they just focused a little bit more, then that pool of candidates would be more aligned with what they're looking for and higher quality.
And I really wonder, so that also kind of speaks to, even though they didn't disclose it, it kind of speaks to the use of an AI screener, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if they know that they're going to get 10,000 to the E squared bazillion people applying for this job, maybe they run into that problem. It's like, yeah, there ain't enough hours in the day for a person to really manage this process. So maybe that's part of the reason why they're using the AI screener thing, which suggests to me that the pool of tears on the highway of sadness for the people who never hear back is going to be quite deep and quite long.
yeah. And you just made me think of something else. If it is an evergreen post, if it is a little bit of a fishing expedition, then like don't rush it. Slow down, write a better
Mm,
job description, right? Like again, if you're not in a
mhm.
hurry, if there is no specific start date for someone, then just reel it in a little bit. There's lots of fishing that we're talking about right now. Um, Reel it in a little bit, get it right, refine it, and then cast it back out into the pool of applicants, if you will. I hate myself right now for talking about fishing so much. Um,
Yeah, my wife hates fish. Like she just is weirded out by them, so she wouldn't dig this conversation either. Right? I'm going to tell her not to watch this one. Um, but you make a very good point. Like if you're going to have a continual kind of application process for this, then you can adopt an approach and a process that is iterative,
yes.
right? Like if you're always recruiting for this role, maybe like do something kind of normal on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever, and just kick people off to your website, and then have like a very like human centric marketing focused kind of like this is what we're doing, like
Yeah.
you know. get in or get out. Like, what do you want? I don't know.
Yeah, and also if you are, you said a good you made me think of something else. If you are always looking to hire for this role, why? Is it high turnover? Like what?
Hmm.
Or is it like again, like we alluded to, something that's in development and is emergent and iterative? Yeah, very, very interesting. This one for such a short job posting, like on paper,
It made us talk a lot.
there's a lot. Um, do better with your job postings. I don't
So
understand.
I would imagine, to touch on what you just said, I would imagine that there probably is quite a bit of turnover for a
Yeah.
role like this, because it is not every single person on the face of the earth who deals with ambiguity well.
Mhm.
There are lots of people who don't deal with ambiguity well, and who really collapse in the face of like a lack of structure.
Yeah,
I would imagine that there's quite a bit of turnover from folks who, they went in, tried to make it work. It
totally.
was just all pear-shaped right from the start because they were the ones who were supposed to be shaping it as well as actually running like their program. That's tough to do. So I would imagine there's quite a bit of turnover because of that. Um,
And if you don't have the authority to shape things, if you don't have the
that's a good
levers,
point.
resources, then like it's just going to combust. So
That's a
I
really
agree.
good point. That's a
I
really
agree.
good point. Like if you're a coach, then you probably don't have authority to make structural changes.
Yeah. But a coach, remember, who's approving PTO and stuff, and
Weird.
who's talking about like I don't know. I feel like there's some we talked about this, but there are blurred lines, and I think that being a coach is a role that requires a lot of like high integrity and compartmentalizing and not blurring the lines. But here you're saying you're a coach for people, and you also get to decide like their salaries and approve their time off and like
Mhm.
that's weird. Again, that tells me
Mhm.
that they don't have a manager then. Maybe they're trying to do a whole like manager of one org situation.
Mhm.
I don't know, but it's like making this person be a coach and a manager. Um, it's really weird.
Well, it seems like we have talked the talk and we have talked ourselves out. That was I enjoyed that though. For a short post like that, generated a lot of thinking. But I think we can consider this thing roasted. Thanks for riding shotgun with us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If this episode helped you make sense of a messy job posting or just confirmed your instincts, go find that subscribe button and tap it. We're on YouTube and all the usual podcast apps, so follow us wherever you like to listen. And if you've seen a posting that made you raise an eyebrow, laugh, or seriously question the sanity of the hiring process, send it our way. Listener submissions are some of our favorites. Follow the link in the show notes for more. We'll be back next week with another post to roast.